Hey, Chad Peterman here, your host of the Can't Stop the Growth podcast, a show that advances the home services industry and beyond. In this exclusive series, I've joined forces with Camp Digital to bring you powerful learnings that advance you and your business in the realm of all things marketing. Together, we bring content that empowers you to build a positive, healthy workplace for you, your people, and your bottom line. So let me officially pass the mic to Camp Digital for today's episode, chock full of insights that you can take and apply to your growth. Now listen and grow.
All right. At Camp Digital, we know that staying competitive is paramount. Whether you're a seasoned business owner or just starting out, this series provides you with the tools and knowledge to prepare and advance your home service business to thrive in this dynamic landscape.
Today in our podcast, I have the pleasure of sitting down with Brigham Dickinson. He is the president of Power Selling Pros and founder of the Power Certification Program. It's a call handling training program that holds teams accountable to booking calls and creating wow experiences over the phone. Dickinson's company holds teams accountable with a combination of online training, call monitoring, regular one-on-one phone-based coaching, and in-person training, all supported by a vast library of pre-recorded calls that showcase best practices. This is an awesome podcast that you don't want to miss. Right now, more than ever, we're seeing a lot of companies that are struggling with leads. And one of the things they're doing is they're looking internally at their business and really looking into booking rates and what changes they can make internally. Can you let us know kind of how you work with companies at Selling Pros right now in this regard?
So at Power Selling Pros, what we do is we train CSRs, dispatchers, and lead coordinators on how to take care of their customers over the phone. So what we do is we like to set an expectation. We sometimes do that via webinar. Sometimes it's just more convenient that way. But what we like to do is fly out in person, do an in-person training. We usually do a half day in the morning and then repeat that half day in the afternoon just to get everybody trained and on the same page, while at the same time having a small group handling the phones, right? You can get everybody trained and still handle the phones if you kind of divide them up into a couple of groups. And during the summertime, we even divide them up into 3 different groups if we need to. That way we can still cover the phones, get everybody trained. Because last thing we want to do is start listening to their phone calls. And then once we get on coaching and say, hey, by the way, we've been listening to your calls. Wait, what? What's going on? Right? So we like to set that expectation first, either via webinar or in person. Once that expectation is set, what we do is we coach them one-on-one twice a month over the phone, using their own phone calls. So they get a chance, based on their own performance, to kind of self-evaluate, listen to their own phone calls. And we simply ask questions like, okay, what did you hear? Oh man, I didn't express sympathy, or I didn't listen. Because our goal there is kind of teach our nomenclature, what we do, how we do it. We're looking for listening and caring and reassuring. But we've got over 1,000 CSRs in our program. It's pretty amazing. 15 years ago, I was doing some digital advertising for a company, believe it or not. It was in 2008, so they couldn't hire me as an employee, but they would pay me for my sales. So I was a subcontractor. And one of my clients, his name is Troy Nearings of Nearings Plumbing and Heating here in Utah. And Troy didn't like the leads that were coming in. And in fact, he brought me in one day and he said, hey, your leads are no good. And I said, what do you mean my leads were no good? It was back when SEO and pay-per-click was still new. And they said, well, the people calling in just want a ballpark price. And I said, okay, they want a ballpark price on what? Well, on a system. Okay, so is that not what you do? Well, yeah, that's what we do. And I said, okay, then it's a lead. You should book that call. You should wow that customer. He said, yeah, but we're not having an easy time booking these types of calls. And I said, okay. So is it just those types of calls that are difficult? He says, well, no. Some call in wanting just to talk to a tech over the phone. Okay, well, that's also an opportunity. If they want to talk to one of your heating and cooling technicians, it's probably a lead. So whether it's, hey, I want to know what you charge to come out. I want to talk to a technician. I just need a ballpark price. These types of calls will come in and they didn't know how to book them. And so I said, look, let me train them. Let me train them on how to book these calls while these customers. And that way you can continue with the advertising. And so he said, sure, why don't you come on in? Because here's the thing. There weren't any other types of calls coming in. He didn't really have a choice. So I started training his CSRs, and his call conversions went up by like 20% in a month and a half. Next thing I know, I get a call from Tom Robichaud, the owner of Precision Plumbing Heating in Boulder, Colorado. And he says, hey, I hear you're working with Troy. And I said, yeah, I'm working with Troy. And he says, why don't you come train my team as well? Because we're getting the same types of calls. And I said, sure, let's do it. But I need to do your advertising. He says, well, I've got my advertising covered, but I'll pay you to train my CSRs. Next thing I know, this light bulb came up over my head. I was like, holy cow, I can have a business training CSRs. And it's funner anyway. So next thing I know, I'm training CSRs for money. It's really weird. And then the two of them, Tom and Troy, it's amazing how this industry works. If you do a good job, everybody knows about it. So Troy and Tom get together and they go, we've got to help Brigham out. This is an awesome thing that he's doing. And they decided to refer me to Mike Agugliero, who owned Gold Medal in East Brunswick, New Jersey at the time. And so I got together with Mike and he said, look, if this works for me, I'm going to refer you to everybody. And sure enough, it worked for him. And he started referring me to everybody. I started hiring all my friends, and Megan, I don't have a lot of friends. They all work with me. And we went from six CSRs to over 1,000 CSRs in our program now. It's a bit of a university. It takes about a year and a half to complete. We put them through 4 levels of certification. By the time we're done, they're booking calls, they're wowing customers. What we do is really unique in that our goal is to take your CSRs and show them ways to make money staying in that seat. You know, one of the biggest problems we have with CSRs is that they don't stay there very long. They feel like it's the bottom of the totem pole. And there's a lot of reasons why they feel that way. It could be that after every technician training that occurs inside a contractor's office, the CSRs are coming in after the meeting and grabbing what's left of the bagels or what's left of the donuts or what have you. I don't know. It could be that sort of thing that makes them feel like they're second rate. But if we can show them ways to be actively engaged in the selling process. Now, let me explain that. We have clients that assign CSRs to 1 or 2 of their technicians. So each CSR or each dispatcher is kind of assigned to 1 or 2 techs. And what their job is in addition to booking calls, we want them to call out on the job and say, hey, how's it going? How's Bill doing out there? Or how did he do? So it's proactive, happy calls, as well as, hey, Bill's going to be out in about an hour. Be sure to ask him about such and such while he's there. I was looking at your notes. I noticed that your system's about 12 years old. You've gotten some great life out of it. Be sure to ask him about new systems while he's there, or be sure to ask him about financing while he's there. Or, hey, if you've got time, I can get you approved for financing right now. And so the intent here is to have the CSR play an active role in increasing average ticket. And so they're constantly working with the customer. They're part of the sales process, not just booking the call, but if they've got time, even calling out to their clients that they were booking yesterday or last week or what have you, just to stay in touch with them on a regular basis and play an active role with that technician to make it really easy for them to come in and say, hey, did you have a chance to talk about indoor air quality or about zoning or what have you? You know what? I was thinking about that. Your gal in the office did mention it. And so now they're playing an entirely different role in the selling process. So these are just some of the things that are super unique about Power Selling Pros versus your average company. An average company is going to have a CSR answer phones, and when the phones aren't coming in, that CSR is going to be doing collections or accounting or reading their favorite novel. Okay, that's not ideal, right? That's not what we want to do with our CSRs. Instead, we want them to be trained and incentivized to keep the dispatch board full and to keep customers completely emotionally engaged in the buying process.
Now, let's talk about that ideal contractor. So number of CSRs, what's their current booking rate? What are some of the challenges that they're having? Like, who is that ideal customer?
If their booking rate is good, I don't know if I'd say that they're ideal.
What is good? Well, what is good?
Great question. So let me answer that question by telling you what the industry average is without coaching, without training. According to Service Titan, it's 42%.
Is that a raw booking rate?
And when you say raw, what are you referring to, Megan?
All calls coming in. Like, is it like a leads determined over 60 seconds? I know that's what Service Titan determines a lead.
And that's exactly it. Yeah. So industry wide, we're looking at 42%. Now, anybody listening to this podcast is going to go, what the heck? That is way low. There's no way we're that low. So let's just work together on that. Let's just say that you are better than that. Okay. Let's say that you do book more than 42% of your phone calls. Let's say it's 60% instead of 42. Okay. If it is at 60%, let's say you're taking in 30 calls a day. Now I realize it's probably a whole lot more than 30 calls a day, but let's just do some simple math here. So you take 30 phone calls a day, you book 60% of those, that's 18 calls a day. And then let's say that your average ticket's $500. And if your average ticket is $500, now I realize that on a replacement call, your average ticket's going to be a whole lot higher than that, right? But on a service call, it may be less, it may be a little bit more, who knows? But for the sake of simple math, let's just say it's $500. Well, if you do the math on that, by the week, it's $9,000 in revenue. And then by each week after, let's say you take 52 weeks, there's 52 weeks in a year, you're basically looking at about just over 2 million, 2.2 million, right? In revenue. Hey, you're a $2 million shop. Congratulations. Now, if you book 85% of your calls, boy, that changes everything. Same numbers, right? Average ticket's $500. Your daily revenue is now $12,000 instead of $9,000. And you're making $3.3 million instead of $2.2 million. That's an extra $1 million in revenue. So call conversion is a really big deal. And our existing customers, they average at least 85% of their phone calls, and many of them book 100% of their calls. Now, in the back of your head, you might be thinking, well, how is that even possible? Well, we teach them to have the right mindset. And what I mean by mindset is, I don't know, when's the last time you read the book Green Eggs and Ham? So the cool thing about that book is that it demonstrates the type of mindset that you need to have. Okay. Sam I am, he comes in on a dog. His customer doesn't even like him in the beginning. In fact, he says as much. He says, that's Sam I am, that's Sam I am. I do not like that Sam I am. He hates the guy. Right. But Sam, he's good, right? He has the right mindset. He owns his process. He goes through 70 objections and 15 closes. Okay. And don't be surprised by that. He's selling green eggs. You know, they're green. And even the ham is green, right? But he has the right mindset and he owns his process. So if you have the right mindset as a CSR, you'd be surprised how much you can do. And so all we need to do is give them a tool set to wow that customer, book that call. And at the end, Mr. Jones, I'm looking at your notes and I noticed that you don't have a club membership. I'm wondering why not? Oh, I just haven't thought about it, or I didn't think, I wasn't sure. Well, the thing is it prevents things like this, the thing that you're dealing with right now, from happening. Now, if you want it, I can get you going on it right now. Now, once that club membership is sold, now I have a technician that's going out there at least twice a year, proactively. And so our goal is to transition the CSRs from, hey, I'm a person who answers the phones, to, no, I'm actively involved in the selling process. Right? Yes, I'm going to book that call, and booking the call is a given. I want to create such a wow experience that by the time the customer hangs up, they're not calling anybody else. And as that technician's going out there, I want to call the homeowner and say, hey, Bill's coming out. He's fantastic. He's about 30 minutes away. You're in great hands. And then after Bill is done, hey, how was Bill? How was your experience with Bill? Oh, was it good? Fantastic. Did you get a club membership? You didn't? Why not? I'm telling you, this is really important. It prevents things like this from happening. We roll with it. Now, do we want to be all salesy over the phone? No, but you'd be surprised how powerful it is that when you've got a technician that's there in person and you've got a gal over the phone that's super kind, super sweet, super nice. It's amazing how they influence the buying process and how they increase the average ticket when they're involved throughout. They feel more fulfilled. The technician is more successful. They all make more. Everybody wins. The customer is happy because they feel like they were really taken care of, right? They were coddled over the phone as well as in person by the tech.
So what attributes do you think really, have you seen a common theme with really good CSRs?
Yeah, they've got a good attitude. And they don't necessarily have to have industry experience. In fact, I'd rather them not. Sometimes we find out somebody's been working with another company that we admire for whatever reason. And we're like, oh, you've been working with so-and-so heating and cooling? Oh my gosh, and you want to work with us? Well, you're hired. Well, wait a minute. Time out. We've got to take them through the process here. If I'm interviewing for a CSR, the first thing I look for is a great attitude. And the way that I ascertain whether or not they've got a good attitude is I say, hey, let's practice right now. And don't worry, there aren't really any wrong answers. I just want to see how you respond to certain things. And so here's the greeting. I teach them the greeting. And then we just go over some scenarios. Hey, I've got a heating and cooling issue. It's really bad. It's really hot in here right now. And I just want to hear what they say, how they say it. Now, what am I looking for? I'm looking for active listening. I'm looking for empathy. I'm looking for them to reassure me that I've called the right place. Because every customer that calls in, they have 3 emotional needs. They need to feel understood. They need to feel cared about. And they need to feel reassured that they've called the right place. If those things come naturally, Megan, those are some of the things I'm going to be looking for in the beginning of that interviewing process. Also, I'm setting the expectation that we're a company that trains. We're a company that actually practices before we get on the phone. And it's just part of our culture. The reason why I bring that up, Megan, is because when companies hire us, it's usually because they've been listening to phone calls and they're really concerned about how they're being handled. And all of a sudden we're like this punishment. Oh, we're not doing a good job. So Power Selling Pros is now working with us. Well, whereas, man, if we could just make it part of their culture, oh my gosh.
Yeah, we're going to invest in you.
Exactly. We trade technicians every week. We haven't been.
Great.
Yeah. And so here's what I do with business owners. I say, look, when you hire us, here's what I need you to do. I need you to go in, sit down with your CSRs and say, hey, you guys, this has nothing to do with you. It's actually me. I've been neglecting this department. I haven't been investing in it. And this is on me and I apologize. And I'm telling you right now, I'm going to fix that. I'm going to make it right. And here's how I'm going to make it right. I've hired this third party. It's called Power Selling Pros. They're going to take care of you from here on out. And I would say that my ideal customer, in answer to your earlier question, they usually have at least a CSR or 2, but the average customer has 3 or 4 CSRs. And we also have companies that have 20 CSRs and 30 CSRs. I mean, we work with Horizon as well. They've got 100 cubicles in their call center. So we work with all sizes, but our average is about 3 to 4 CSRs, and the company's around 5 to 10 million.
So Power Selling Pros, they put us on the right track. We still work with them. They're amazing at what they do. And they'll get you the coaching you need, because one thing I see with home service companies, call center is broken. And there's so much money left in the call center. You're not at a 90% booking rate, showing empathy on the phone, smiling on the phone, making sure they're having a better day after they got off the phone with you. And you need to call Power Selling Pros and see Brigham.
Right now when we're looking at cost per lead and, people are spending a lot of money, Google prices are going up with pay-per-click and LSAs and everything counts, right? So when I listen to phone calls, I see a lot of people unable to handle price of, if a customer wants a price over the phone, and of course we're not going to give them the price over the phone, but what are some of the 3 things, like if you were to sit down with a CSR team, what are like the top 3 things that you guys typically uncover right away why they're not booking calls?
Yeah. So we take them from wherever they're at, call conversion wise, whether it's 42%, whether it's 60. And we teach them how to handle the first 30 seconds of the phone call. And I'll just give you the 3 steps. And in fact, I alluded to them earlier. Customer has 3 emotional needs in the beginning of a phone call. They want to feel understood. They want to feel cared about. And they want to feel reassured they've called the right place. Okay, if you can take care of those emotional needs first, the rest of the call is going to take care of itself. So the ultimate outcome of the call, regardless of the call coming in, is determined by the first 30 seconds of that call. Okay, so let me give you an example. I want them to listen. I want them to care. I want them to reassure. Okay, so anybody that's listening to this podcast, this is where they start taking notes, right? Listen, care, reassure. I'm going to give you an application for each one of those principles. Okay, so listening, application number 1, tell me more. You ever watch the movie Grease, Megan?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, tell me more. Tell me more. Look, this is very, very important. Customer gets on the phone. They say, hey, I'm looking for a ballpark price. Great. Tell me more about your situation. What's going on? Now we're talking about the situation itself as opposed to their perceived solution to the situation, right? Tell me more about your situation. What's going on? Well, I've got this air conditioner. It's blowing hot air. My gosh, that's terrible. What did I just do? I'm empathizing. So I listen, I empathize. My gosh, that's terrible. How long has it been doing that? Oh, last couple of days. Wow. So you've been in this heat for the last 2 days? Yes, it's not good. My mother-in-law is living with us. Can't go without AC. We We really need it. Well, you've called the right place. I just reassured them. Call the right place. We can help you. When would you like us out? Oh, this afternoon would be good. Now in the back of your head, you're going, how does that make sense? Well, the reason why it makes sense is because it's emotional, right? Whenever I get in front of people, I ask them a question. I say, guys, give me the most sensible car on the market. Just name the most economically sound car. And usually it's either a Camry, right? Toyota Camry, or a Honda Civic. And then I say, okay, guys, how many people in the room have a Honda Civic? And no one raises their hand. No one. And why is that? Well, the reason why that is because it's emotional. Okay. It's the emotion that drives. And then what we do is we take our logic to justify the emotion. So we look at a Volvo, or we look at an Audi, or we look at whatever, a Tesla. And we go, from an emotional standpoint, we go, oh my gosh, that would be so great, right? And then our logic comes in. Well, it is $20,000 more, but because of X, Y, and Z, I mean, I've justified buying an Audi because it accelerates a whole lot faster, right? So I can, if I'm in an intersection and I really need to get in front of I really need to go, right? I can't have it sitting there, right? I put my foot on the gas and it doesn't go, I could get in a car accident. And that's dangerous, Megan. That's very dangerous. And so do you see how we use logic to justify the purchase? And so the same is true over the phone. At the end of the day, I want to feel like I'm being understood. I want to feel like you care about me. I want to feel like I've called the right place. And if you can take care of those emotional needs, when I get to when would you like us to come out, it's rudimentary. This afternoon to be good. I feel like I've called the right place now. Because you just told me, right? I feel like you understand me. Finally, somebody gets me, right? And so we take care of that first, and you'd be hey, I just want to talk to a technician. Great, we've got a lot of those. Let me make sure I'm sending out the right one. Tell me more about your situation. What's going on? Oh, I got this air conditioner. It's blowing hot air. My gosh, it's terrible. How long has it been doing that? Well, we could totally help you with that. When would you like us out? Oh, this afternoon would be good. Now, in the back of your head, you're thinking, gosh, is it really that easy? Yes, it is. It is that easy. The intent is to connect with them on an emotional level. Funny thing how people do business with their friends. It's just a matter of getting them comfortable, feeling safe, right? If they feel comfortable, they feel safe, they're having just a little bit of fun. Now they're in a buying environment. You mind if we have a little tangent?
Let's have a tangent.
Okay, so I also train technicians. So on day one, I train CSRs, and on day two, I do ride-alongs with the technicians. And the exciting thing about training technicians is that this new technology came out. It's called Rilla.
I know Rilla.
Oh man, it is exciting stuff. Basically, it records the technician's call. So funny thing, we have a team of call monitors that listen to phone calls on a regular basis. And for years, we've had companies, our clients, tell us, hey, you're such a great job with our CSRs, especially on soft skills. Would you do the same thing with techs? And so a couple of years ago, I started doing ride-alongs. And when this technology came along, it was like match made in heaven. Oh, it was amazing. And so we started training techs, and I'll tell you, on day two, when I'm working with techs, we do about an hour training in the morning before I do ride-alongs. And that's how we start the process, right? That's our initial training for them. But I asked them a question, and you got to make sure you know your audience when you ask this question. You wouldn't ask this to a bunch of CSRs, but to technicians, it's a perfect question. Okay, you ready? So guys, how do you get kissed on the first date? Now, you'd be surprised. It doesn't matter how early it is, right? They don't need coffee anymore, right? They're sitting up in their chair. They're paying attention. They've got their pencil out ready to take notes. And even if they're married, it doesn't matter because you know that they haven't been kissed in weeks, right? And so I tell them, look, you've got to create an environment of safety because guess what? If they don't feel safe, if your date doesn't feel safe, you're not going to get kissed, okay? If they don't feel comfortable, guess what? You're not going to get kissed. And if they're not having just a little bit of fun, you're not getting kissed. Okay. Now, at some point, your technician, and really at least a smart alecky one's going to say, wait a minute, you want us to kiss our customers? No, I don't. But I do want you to create an environment of safety, comfort, and fun inside the customer's home. Because in that environment, you have the opportunity to become curious about what's going on inside the customer's, not just what you were called out to do, but everything that's going on inside the customer's home. And then with that curiosity, you can uncover things that need to be fixed, and you can provide options for fixing or replacing all those things that you found. And then you just simply get to yes or no. At this point, a technician goes, wait a minute, no selling? Did I say anything about selling? Did you say anything? Nobody said anything about selling. All we're talking about here is creating an environment of safety, comfort, and fun. And in that environment, we're going to get curious about what's going on inside the customer's home, provide options, and get to yes or no. And that's it. That's all I want you to do. And then I go out there on ride-alongs and show them how to do it. Now with Rilla, I have the ability to monitor those calls. My team has the ability to monitor those calls. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for an environment of safety, comfort, fun, lots of curiosity, providing options, and getting to yes or no. You'd be amazed what happens.
Yeah, I love it. Let's talk about text messaging. We're at a time where a lot of companies are starting to interact with their client base and customers through text message. And I just wanted your thoughts on that, on over the phone versus text message. What kind of mix do you like? Or do you even like text messaging?
I'm seeing more and more texts coming in, and it's great. I mean, there is a group of customers that like to communicate that way. They don't like to communicate over the phone. And you'd be surprised that, yes, I realize that they want to be to the point, but you can still say things like, oh, well, that's not good. That's 3 words. That's not good. You can have it ready to rock, copy it and paste it in there. In fact, there's even AI that can do it, right? So what's going on? Well, it's this. Oh, well, we can help you with that. I can help. 3 words again, right? So again, our goal is to connect with them on an emotional level as quickly as we can via text. Now we have a night answering service called Booked. Bookedbypsp.com is where you can go to find it. But it's probably the only night answering service that has a 90% booking ratio. And it's because they're trained and held accountable by Power Selling Pros. But the reason why I bring them up is because they not only answer phones, but they also answer text messaging as well. And we found that yes, we can book it via text, but there are some times where that text turns into a phone call. If they have more questions or they're not sure about whether or not they want to book, it's really easy to transition them into a phone call. And then from a phone call, you can build more of a relationship. You can build value, present the dispatch fee, and then get a technician out there.
That's great. Let's talk about a company that is smaller, so under $1 million, and they might not be ready for Power Selling Pros. I noticed on your website, you guys have a monthly kind of training program that you can sign up for, or a resource center. What other resources would you recommend to these companies to kind of improve booking rates?
Okay, so for those smaller companies, the first thing I'd want to do is get the business owner off the phone. The reason why I'd want to get the business owner off the phone is because they have a tendency to cherry pick their calls. Okay, not only that, when they're on a call, they get to the phone when they get to it. And if they're on that phone, they're in the middle of a crawl space and there's things going on, there's commotion. They're not totally focused and engaged with that customer because they're working on a system, right? And just get somebody to answer your phones. If you can't afford somebody full-time, have a third party answer those phone calls for you. Booked by PSP is a good example. This is the reason why we started doing that. We wanted to get business owners off their phones. And then, look, your goal as a business owner is to slowly take those in-business responsibilities off your plate so you can begin to work on your business. I mean, do you want to do that forever? Right now, you've got a job, right? You've got a job. Is that the reason why you started your own business? Because if that's the reason why you started your own business, you might as well work for somebody else because at least you can go home at night, right? You can actually disconnect each day. If you do want to grow your business, we need to start taking some of those responsibilities off of you. Now, answering phones, have a third party do that. Slowly but surely, we want to have technicians that come on board so that they start doing that. And then you focus in on working on the business as opposed to in it. That would be the goal for those smaller, under $1 million business owners.
What other advice would, I can't leave this interview without asking this one question. How do you handle the price objection over the phone? I still hear it all the time. I just want a price. Can you just give me a price for that?
Yeah. So I'm going to give you a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C. Are you ready?
Okay. I'm ready.
Okay. So plan A is we want to listen, care, and reassure, right? So I'm looking for a ballpark price. Okay, great. Tell me more about your situation. What's going on? Well, I've got this air conditioner and it's blowing hot air. All right. How long has it been doing that? Last couple of days. Okay. So that's not good. No, it's not good at all. Well, look, we can totally help. When would you like us out? Well, this afternoon will be good, but before I have anybody come out, I really want to get an idea as to how much it would cost, right? They push back at it. So I've just exhausted plan A. So plan A is listen, care, reassure. The reason why this is important is because I want them to like me. If they don't like me, they're not going to have the patience to continue to talk to me. So it's funny how people become more amiable, they become more flexible, they become easier to deal with if they like you. Okay? So you've got to do that first. Listening, caring, reassuring is pivotal. If plan A doesn't work and they say, really, I just want to get an idea. Can you just give me a price? I've been calling around, just figuring out what it's going to cost me. It's a great question. Here's what we do. What we do is we send out our comfort advisor. He comes out, he takes a look at the situation. He makes sure that he has the right system size, and he gives you that price that you're looking for while he's there. Now, it's a free consultation. When would you like us out? Okay, so I've just presented plan B. All right, so let's say at plan B, they go, Brigham, you're really nice. And I appreciate where you're coming from. I really do. But I really would just like to get a price. Okay, totally. Let me ask you something, Megan. How long have you been at this? I've been at this for a couple of days now. Okay. And I'm willing to bet that there's some that have given you a price over the phone and some that don't. Yes? Yes. Okay. And I know that you want to just be done. But the fact of the matter is this is actually going to take longer. Because if I give you a price over the phone and then we come out and that comfort advisor gives you a different price, are you going to be okay with that? No, you're not. You're not going to be okay with that. So I want this to be as painless a process as you. Let us come out. Let us take a look at the situation. Let us do a heat load calculation. Let us make sure this is the right system size. And I promise you, we're going to be totally fair. We're going to give you all of your options. And then you decide which way you want to go. When would you like us out? Okay, so that's your plan C with that type of customer.
It's amazing, but it's amazing how many CSRs go right to, well, we don't give prices over the phone. There's no rapport, there's no trust built, and then that just shuts off the conversation and that lead's gone.
So I know one sure way to fix it, and that is involve them in the selling process. Tell them that we're going to pay them based on the average ticket. So they get a base plus a commission on the average ticket. And there's ways to do that. If you've got Service Titan, there's ways to track it. If you've got another platform, we just got to find another way to track it. But the intent is to just take a look at their average ticket. Let the technician get a piece of the commission of what they sell. Let a CSR get a piece of the commission of what is sold. And make sure that CSR is doing a regular happy call before the technician comes out, after the technician comes out, actively saying, hey, when your technician's there, ask about this, ask about that, so on and so forth. You can get them to the point where you can see if they qualify for financing right over the phone. And if they're doing all of that, why not pay them? Let me give you an example. So I do a lot of technician ride-alongs. I use my phone in front of the customer as often as possible. And the reason why I use my phone is I put the CSR on speaker and I have her sweet, kind, and nice voice. It's an amazing thing. I've got to smile. I've got to crack jokes. I've got to do some things to get the customer to like me. But that CSR comes on with her sweet, kind voice, and she doesn't have to do jack, right? The customer just loves her right from the get-go. And so I'm going to use that voice. I'm going to throw her on speaker and I'm going to have that conversation right in front of the customer with her. So let me give you an example. I go into the customer's home with a technician, and this gal, she's Irish, and she brings that up right from the get-go. And she says, I don't want to be sold anything. I've already purchased the filter. I have a club membership with you. I just want you to come, take a look at the system, and switch out the filters. No problem. I can do that, right? So I go downstairs, and we're putting the filter in, and crazy thing, the filter's the wrong size. And the one that she's got in there is the wrong size. And so basically that filter is too big for the space. And so half the filter is squashed down and it's not working. So forced air is coming through. Now, when I was going downstairs, she said something very interesting. She said, it's always cold in the house. It's a new system that you guys installed a year ago, and it's always cold in the house, right? In her Irish accent. It was so great. I'm not going to try and duplicate it, but imagine it, okay? So I I go down there, I find out that the filter is the wrong size, and that's probably why she's feeling cold all the time, because that air is being forced through that small part of the filter. So I bring the filter back upstairs and I say, ma'am, here's what's going on. And I push the filter down kind of like this. And I say, how do you get air through that filter? You don't. It's only going through half of it. And she's going, oh my gosh. Well, why do I have that size filter? And I said, I don't know why you have that size filter, but you need a different size filter. And she's like, well, I'm going to have to reorder everything. I'm going to have to, it's so frustrating. You know what? Let us order the right filter size. And she says, but I don't want to have to pay for you guys to come back out, so on and so forth. And I said, look, here's what we're going to do. I said, I noticed that your water heater is 12 years old. Now, we also switch out water heaters. She's like, I don't need a new water heater. And I'm like, well, I'm with you. But if we have a guy that comes out to give you a price on a new water heater, then that is a free visit. So he can come out with the right size filter and you don't have to pay a thing. She's like, oh, well, I guess that makes sense. And she's like, well, I don't want to feel like I'm taking advantage of you. I'm offering it. It's my idea. You're not taking advantage. If it's my idea, you're not taking advantage, are you? And she's like, no, not at all. Okay, so let me get my CSR on the phone and we'll schedule this free visit from our technician tomorrow who will bring the right filter with the right size, okay? So I get her on the phone and she's super sweet, super kind, super nice. She does everything she's supposed to do. And at the end of the phone call, the customer says, and by the way, when he comes out, tell him I'm interested in a tankless water heater. I'm interested in a tankless water heater. This is a CSR that is engaged in the selling process. You want to engage the CSR in the selling process, and you want to train and incentivize them to be a part of that process.
I could actually talk to you for a very long time because I have so many more questions, but our time is coming up, so I might have to do a part 2 another time, Brigham.
Sounds good to me.
Let our listeners know how they can find out more information about your business.
Yeah, so just go to powersellingpros.com. Power, P-O-W-E-R, selling, S-E-L-L-I-N-G, pros, P-R-O-S.com. And there's a link there. Just click on a demo. It's a free demo. And we'll talk to you about what your needs are and see if there's a fit. Most of the time, we're training CSRs, and there are some times where it makes sense for me to come out and work with techs as well, and would love to do that.
Well, thank you so much. It's been a great conversation.
My pleasure. Yes, thank you.
Thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to get connected, you can find me at chadmpeterman.com. To see what our team's up to, you can visit petermanbros.com. As always, keep growing out there.